When the narcissist traps themselves and you simply watch from afar, stop trying to pull them back into your orbit. Stop pleading with ghosts who have already left the room. Let them go. Psychologists often describe this moment as detachment trauma, that agonizing pull between logic and emotional addiction. When you've been entangled with a narcissist, your brain becomes wired for chaos, conditioned to crave even the smallest signs of approval from the one who hurt you. But here's the truth every therapist will tell you. Every attempt to intervene is another act of self-abandonment. The narcissist doesn't need your rescue. They need the consequences of their own choices. And they will face those consequences. Narcissists, according to Dr. Ramani Durvasula and countless clinicians, are masters of self-sabotage. Their impulsivity, their need for validation, their hunger to control, these traits are the very rope with which they will eventually hang themselves. When you try to save them, you're actually delaying their reckoning. Let them spiral. Let the facade crumble. It is not cruelty, it's reality therapy in its purest form. They traded you in, didn't they? For someone new, someone dazzled by the illusion they project. Psychologists call this the replacement fantasy phase. Narcissists recycle people the way children discard toys, enchanted by novelty, blind to substance. Their new supply is not your rival but their next victim in a predictable cycle of idealization and devaluation. You, on the other hand, must stand firm in no contact, not as revenge but as recovery. Every message you don't send is a step out of the fog of trauma bonding, that biochemical addiction fueled by dopamine, cortisol, and longing. If you find yourself craving conversation with the very person who shattered you, pause. Ask yourself, as therapists often do in cognitive behavioral recovery work, what am I truly seeking? It's not them, it's closure, validation, or the illusion of peace. Yet none of these can come from someone emotionally incapable of empathy. That ache to reconnect isn't love, it's withdrawal. Recognizing this is the first act of self-liberation. Yes, in the beginning, loneliness will sting like an open wound. You'll feel hollow, as though a piece of your identity vanished with them. But psychologists describe this stage as identity reconstruction, the sacred rebuilding of self after enmeshment. Loneliness, when embraced, becomes your greatest teacher. Solitude sharpens your boundaries and restores your autonomy. What once felt like isolation becomes your power source, while the narcissist, forever seeking mirrors, descends into the emptiness they once projected onto you. They need you more than they will ever admit. The narcissist's entire existence depends on external validation. They feed on admiration the way a drowning man gasps for air. Psychologists define this as narcissistic supply, the constant need for emotional fuel to sustain their fragile self-image. You were their mirror, reflecting back a version of them they wanted to believe existed. Without you, that reflection shatters, and they are left staring into the void of their own emptiness. But you, unlike them, possess something extraordinary: self-awareness. It's the quality most therapists call the foundation of emotional intelligence. You loved genuinely, you gave freely, you healed without expecting applause. None of that was wasted. You did those things because compassion is your nature, not a currency to be repaid. The narcissist couldn't reciprocate because they operate from a deficit of empathy. They can only imitate affection, not feel it. Understanding this isn't cynicism, it's emotional maturity. Now, the true challenge begins: learning to sit with yourself. Psychologists emphasize this as the crucible of healing, the ability to find peace in solitude without external validation. As you master this, your quiet confidence becomes magnetic. People will sense the energy shift. They'll see a strength that doesn't seek attention but commands respect. That's the transformation the universe, and perhaps life itself, has been training you for. Let them go. Truly. Don't stalk their downfall, don't await their apology. Closure doesn't come from the narcissist. It comes from clarity. By focusing on your independence, you train your nervous system to stop fearing abandonment. As Dr. Judith Orloff notes, emotional freedom begins when you stop making other people responsible for your peace. When you stop chasing ghosts, you become untouchable. And one day you'll look back and realize, this wasn't punishment. It was preparation. You have learned the rarest skill of all, the ability to walk alone, not in bitterness, but in full awareness of your worth. The narcissist will repeat their cycle, each relationship another unraveling thread. You, however, will rise quietly, no longer bound by their chaos, because the rope that once trapped you has become the bridge to your freedom. Being selective about who you allow into your life isn't just a boundary, it's a psychological act of self-preservation. According to Dr. Gabor Mate, every moment we choose peace over chaos, we are reparenting the parts of ourselves that once normalized dysfunction. So when someone toxic walks out of your life, whether they ghost you, betray you, or try to provoke you, it's not the end of your story. It's the beginning of emotional freedom. The narcissist leaving isn't a tragedy. It's a detox. When psychologists study narcissistic cycles, they often describe what happens next as the provocation phase. This is when the narcissist, realizing their control over you is fading, begins to test the emotional cord that once tied you to them. They may create fake profiles, send vague messages, or post baiting content online. All tactics of what experts like Dr. Ramani Durvasula call hoovering, designed to pull you back into their psychological orbit. But here's the paradox. By the time they do this, by the time their mask slips and they start fishing for your attention again, you won't want them back. Healing rewires your nervous system to reject what once felt familiar but toxic. Many survivors panic when months pass with no contact. Assuming silence means the narcissist has moved on successfully. In truth, as trauma therapists explain, silence is gold. It's space for your nervous system to recalibrate. The narcissist's quiet doesn't signify peace. It often signals internal chaos as they scramble to find new sources of validation. Dr. Craig Malkin, in his research on egoism and narcissistic attachment, notes that narcissists are rarely at rest. They're simply between feeds of attention. So if nothing's happening, that's good. The absence of their chaos is the presence of your healing. The distance you now have from this person isn't a void. It's an inheritance. Every ounce of energy that once went into managing their moods can now be redirected toward rebuilding your self-worth. Psychologists refer to this as energy reclamation, the process of reclaiming emotional labor that was previously exploited. You are no longer the caretaker of someone else's instability. That psychic space is now yours, and it's where growth takes root. Healing is not passive. It's an active redirection of the emotional power they once drained from you. When someone walks away, when they cheat, lie, manipulate, or discard you, your first instinct may be to chase, to reason, to beg for clarity. But therapists emphasize this moment as a test of emotional maturity. Narcissists thrive on drama because chaos validates their existence. Dr. Les Carter calls this the emotional chaos loop, a cycle that feeds their fragile ego through conflict. When you simply say, "Okay, go," you starve that loop. Their grand exit was meant to provoke a scene. Your calm indifference is psychological warfare they cannot win. It's a paradox. By refusing to chase, you make them crumble faster. They expected emotional fireworks, but what they get instead is silence. A silence that mirrors their own emptiness back to them. This is where many narcissists begin their descent into what clinicians call narcissistic collapse, a state of emotional disintegration triggered by the loss of control. And for you, this collapse is not vengeance, it's liberation. It's the universe showing you that peace requires no confrontation, only release. The greatest mistake that empaths and chosen ones, as some spiritual teachers call them, make is overgiving when someone withdraws. Psychologists call this trauma repetition, replaying the old wound of abandonment by trying to prove your worth to someone incapable of recognizing it. When you flood a narcissist with affection or explanations as they pull away, you're not healing the relationship, you're feeding the predator. The most radical act of love, therefore, is withdrawal. It's not cruelty, it's boundary enforcement. Let them go down their path. They will, inevitably, find themselves surrounded by equally toxic company, people who mirror their dysfunction rather than challenge it. This is the karmic principle therapists see repeatedly in toxic dynamics. People tend to attract what matches their level of emotional awareness. While they decompose under the weight of their own poor choices, you begin to ascend. Your detachment becomes your spiritual graduation. You must understand this deeply. Just because they've surrounded themselves with new faces doesn't mean they've upgraded. As psychologists often remind survivors, narcissists don't choose better. They choose different. They select whoever will tolerate their delusion for the next cycle. It's not a comparison, it's a repetition. You, on the other hand, are no longer repeating. You're evolving. Yes, it hurts. Yes, you'll wonder why they seem unfazed while you're rebuilding. But remember what Dr. Kristen Milstead teaches. Narcissists are performers of emotional invulnerability. Their calm exterior hides an inner collapse. Their new company isn't better than you. It's simply the next audience. And you, the one who chose self-respect over spectacle, are no longer on stage. Your journey now is not about revenge. It's about rebirth. The narcissist's downfall is inevitable because it's self-authored. They will hang themselves with the same rope of deceit and vanity they once used to control others. Meanwhile, your ascent begins quietly, one healthy boundary at a time. Every moment you choose peace, silence, and self-respect, you're proving what psychologists have long understood. The surest sign of healing is not how loudly you move on, but how calmly you no longer look back.